2 weeks ago, we started talking about wisdom songs, and there's just a few of them that's considered wisdom songs, and I expressed to y'all last week. I expressed to y'all last week that I believe that all the Psalms fit inside the wisdom literature, but this is the way that Ross categorized this bunch of Psalms here. And so we started talking about how they laid out. We talked about the better sayings, better than gold, better than rubies, and we talked about all those, and I pointed out that a lot of those was in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, but there's also a lot of them in the Psalms as well, better than. And then we talked about the numerical sayings, where it counted off numbers, and then admiration without a motive, and we talked about how that was, how you had the keys of that, and then I think we actually talked about this first one we're going to talk about tonight, but we're going to pick up there anyway. So if you're in your notes on number 4, anonymity, address, and what that word means is to give a warning or a reprimand. So you're reprimanding somebody. And so I want to start tonight looking in Psalm 34, and we'll stay in Psalm 34 and 37 quite a bit, so if you want to find your way there. In Proverbs, the author addresses his students as sons 23 times. But that address as a son is rare when it comes to Psalms. You see it just a few times. And one of the times you see it is in Psalm 34. Look at verse 11. Come, ye children, hearken unto me, I will teach you the fear of the Lord. That sounds just like it comes out of the Proverbs, don't it? I mean, it sounds exactly like what you hear coming out of the Proverbs. And so this type of address in these few Psalms, because there's not very many of them that have this address where it talks about sons, or whether it's referring to a group of people to come hear the wisdom that the speaker has. This type of address identifies it as a wisdom psalm. So this is one of the types of identity that you have. All right? So now look down in number 5 there. So we're going to impress y'all. Esher, that's your Hebrew word. Esher formula. So it's mainly a beatitude formula or happy formula. It's an exclamatory sentence that starts with this word, and it means beatitude or happy. So where do we think about beatitudes? Matthew, Sermon on the Mount. Happy is the peacemakers. Happy is, and so where is a, and it's actually listed here in the list. But what is the psalm that you think of when you think of happy? Which one? Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, or stand in the, right? So that's Psalm 1. And so that is that's the famous one. But I want to look, while we're in Psalm 34, let's look at Psalm 34 and see where the word happy is. Where would you say the word happy is? No, that's what I would say too, but it's not. That's why I asked the question, because that's exactly where I would say it is. But that is a totally different word right there. Isn't that amazing? Because that's exactly where I would say it is. I had to go look it up. Yeah, you don't have that blessing tonight. I don't mean to embarrass you, but Psalm 1, verse 1, that word there, it's Rasha, I think is that word, and that word means to bless someone. So that means you're blessing someone. That is an act that you're doing. And that is exactly where I was sitting there looking in my concordance. I said, well, that's not it. Look at verse 8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Happy. Look at that. Happy is the man that trusteth in him. And different word, and like I say, I'm up here, I'm not kidding you. I'm looking at it in verse 1, I said, it's not here. This is not it. And so I actually had to go get some other tools to look it up, and there it is in verse 8. So this is that happy formula. And in all these Psalms that you see there listed, chapter 1, Psalm 34, Psalm 112, 128, and Psalm 32, all of those Psalms, they're found, it says that there's something that you do that makes you happy. There's some kind of act that you do that makes you happy. Almost every one of them has something to do with obeying the Lord. Okay? Happy is the man that walketh not in the counsel of ungodly, but what does he do? He meditated in the law of the Lord, in the Torah, day and night. Okay? So we see that. It's not found in Wisdom Psalm 37, 49, or 133, but it's found in some other Psalms that are not considered wisdom Psalms, and so they're listed there. Okay? I know that's all confusing as all get out, but trust me, it's there. There's also a rhetorical question that we find at times. Now, let me ask y'all a question. Have you noticed in your notes that every time you have a 3, like a 13 or 23 or something like that, that's not the verse? Have you noticed that? Somebody consistently hit the wrong key as they were typing this book up. All right? It consistently, they missed that. So you see here it says rhetorical question. Psalm 94 verses 9 through 11 is an example of a rhetorical question in wisdom Psalms. I want to look at Psalm 34. That's where we're at. So let's look at the rhetorical question in Psalm 34. What's a rhetorical question? Okay. It's not in verse 13, but it's in verse 12. What man is he that desireth life and loveth many days, that he may see good? Well, what man is that? What man desires many days? Everybody. This is a rhetorical question. Everybody deserves, everybody wants that. So if you desire that, he gives us the answer to what we desire underneath it. Okay? Keep your tongue from evil, that your lips speak no guile. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Because the eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears is open to their cry. Okay, so that's why we do it. So you have rhetorical questions, and you see those listed there in that particular section. I'm heading somewhere in a hurry, so y'all just ride with me till we get there. How many English majors do we have in here? What's a simile? Okay. Yeah, as or like, right? So that's the only way I can remember. As or like. Okay, that's the only way I can remember. And y'all gonna love this. My English is terrible. I see that as smiley. So not simile. But so what's a metaphor? Mm-mm.
Right before that he says it's big something.
Yeah.
That tree is or no,
Yeah. What about I am the vine?
there you go.
All right.
He's not the big tree.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. And right. And so a metaphor, and I have trouble, and so this is, like I say, this is Sunday school on steroids in here, and so a metaphor is when you say something is something that it's not. Okay, my dog is a bear. Okay, he's not. He's a dog. Okay, my dog. They call my dog Granger. His name is Granger, and I'm like, no, his name's not Granger. His name's Dog, and and so anyway, you get the idea. Metaphor. Assembly is a figure of speech involving the comparison of one thing to another thing of a different kind. So it's used to make a description more emphatic or vivid. As brave as a lion, crazy like a fox. That's, those are similes. Similes draw from the world around us to illustrate something and to make it stick. Okay, Psalm 1, again, that famous psalm, like a tree planted by the rivers of water. Well, you're not a tree. Okay, you're not a tree, going to your example. And let's look at, you're right here close, so let's take your Bible and look at Psalm 37, and let's just look at one of the examples here, if I can get my pages to turn. Psalm 37, verse 2. Well, let's read verse 1 so we can get the context. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. What is iniquity? Okay, it is. So do you know that when you look in the King James Version especially, you have different words for sin, and when you see the word iniquity, that word means a habitual, continual sin. It's something that you're continuing in, freely in. So these people are freely working in sin. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass. So they're like the grass. So they're going to be cut down. And you have to understand that they mowed with a sickle. So they mowed the grass down and they used it for fire and wither as a green herb. So that they're like the grass. They're going to be cut down. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shall thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. All right, so what would you say that last little line there emphasized about you being envious of these workers of iniquity? Just I mean, this is just something just throwing out there. I'm bouncing it, so no wrong answer. Right. 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 And the thing about it is we desire to have more, don't we? I mean, more junk. I've got more junk than you could ever imagine. I've given this example before. My grandfather on my mother's side, when he passed away, he left all of his stuff to me. And I backed a long bed Chevrolet pickup truck up, and I loaded all of his belongings, 90 years worth of accumulation, onto a long bed Chevrolet and drove off with it. That's all he had for 90 years. And you couldn't, honestly, I'm talking about my personal stuff now. I'm not talking about Anita's included. I'm talking about you couldn't back up a 53-foot trailer and get all my junk on it, I mean, you just couldn't. And we think about how important it is. But what I think that, me personally, what I think that last little part of that verse, look at the verse there. Look at verse 3, I think it is. Hang on, verse 4. Man, my pages don't turn. Verse 3, trust in the Lord and do good, so thou shalt dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. So you're going to have a place to live, and you're going to have food to eat, which is the two most important things that we can have, plus the favor of the Lord is going to be on us. Okay? So that's the way I would see it. But anyway, we see these similes, and we find them in there. But just because there's a presence of a simile or a poem does not make it a wisdom psalm, okay? Or it don't fit in this category. So there's some psalms that have similes in them that don't fit in that particular category. Again, I'm telling you what Ross is saying, but I'm telling you from Marty's perspective, everything in Job, Proverbs, Psalms, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, it's all wisdom literature. It's all there for wisdom, okay? But this is the way Ross is classifying it. Themes of wisdom psalms. So let's deal with that real quick. There are 4 motifs that can be found in wisdom psalms. So this is what you're looking for when you're looking for psalms. First of all, fear the Lord, respect the Torah. Let's go back and look at Psalm 34. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and he delivered me from my fears. They looked unto him and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamped around about me, around about them that fear him, and delivered them. Oh, taste and see the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusts him. How do you know to trust in him? Through his word, through Torah. So through what you know he says. O fear the Lord, ye his saints, for there's no want in them that fear him. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they that seek the Lord shall not want any good thing. Come, ye children, hearken unto me, and I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Okay, so again, we see this teaching, and the teaching comes from the Torah itself. It comes from the wisdom of the Lord. So first of all, the first motif that you find in what Ross labels as a wisdom psalm is the respect or the fear, the reverence of Torah itself. Okay, and we see that major in Psalm 1. You meditate in this law day and night. Okay. Contrasting lifestyles. I want you to look at chapter 37. Again, you could see this contrast in lifestyle in Psalm 1. You have the wicked and you have the righteous that is put there. But I want to look at Psalm 37. And before I do that, I want to read you what I've got here in this little paragraph. The righteous and the wicked appear together in Scripture. Would you say that's true? Side by side, we see them all the time, don't we? Wonder why they do that. Yeah, but we live with the wicked and the righteous here, right? And so it puts us in a real life situation where there's wicked and there's righteous people living together, just like the tares and the wheat growing together. All right? So it puts us in a situation where we see what's going on. The wicked lives a godless life of indulgent and is considered a fool or a sinner. I'm going to ask you a crazy question, and unless you've heard me say this, you probably don't know what I'm going to say, but what does the word fool mean in Proverbs? Yeah, they're ungodly. Right, it's not like what we consider a fool. Yeah, you're right. It's exactly right. A fool in that particular place, the word I'm looking for is a rebel. They're rebelling against God. They're rebelling against what's right. They're rebelling against God's law. And so when it calls them a fool, that's what it is meaning in wisdom literature is a rebel. It's somebody, and again, they're godless because they're rebelling against God. All right. So they're considered a fool and a sinner. While the righteous lives a life pursuing holiness and God's blessing as they conform to Him. The contrast is found in Psalm 1 and Psalm 37, which are clear examples of this. So let's look at Psalm 37. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither like a herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shall thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and He shall give thee the desires of thy heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. And He shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for Him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise do evil. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord shall inherit the earth. That sound familiar? So let me ask you a question now, as we're looking at that. Now it's really plain over in Psalm 73, and I started to go over there, and we might go there before it's all said and done. But in Psalm 73, Asaph is talking, and he said, man, my foot, I almost slipped. I almost fell down. Because I got my eyes on everybody around me. And they're wicked and they're prospering. And it's like God don't care. Do y'all ever feel like that? Yes. Yes. Lord, you look around and I forget who I was talking to. It may have been last night at dinner. I can't remember, but I was talking to somebody and was discussing how some people get unhealthy. I think it was us talking about it. Unhealthy, and they just get skinny, and they look, they've lived a terrible life, and and you see somebody that's healthy as a horse and they fall over dead, and you say, why? Or you see a good person die a terrible death, and you say, why? And yet you see a wicked person live forever and forever and forever, and their wickedness just gets wickeder and wickeder. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Let's go to Psalm 73. When I get to feeling that way, these two Psalms, Psalm 37 and Psalm 73, is the two places that Marty goes to. Okay? We're learning Psalms and we're learning about Psalms, but let's learn how to apply Psalm now. Look at Psalm 73. This is Asaph. Truly God is good to Israel, okay? Even to such that are of a clean heart. But as for me, so in other words, he's saying he's good to them, but I don't fit in that clean heart category. That's what he's saying. As for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. In other words, he done went slippering off into sin. For I was envious of the foolish or the rebel when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. They were just prospering. And it was like, and look what happens now. For there were no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. And so in other words, they didn't go to the hospital and lay up in the hospital bed for a while. They were just strong as an ox. They were just, and it was nothing coming to them. They were firm. Look at verse 5. They're not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. I mean, they don't get bad knees. Their feet don't hurt. You know, their hair don't fall out. They just pretty their whole life. You know, I mean, man, they're not like other people. They're just not plagued. Therefore, their pride compassed them about as a chain. Violence covered them as a garment. And man, I mean, so here they are. They become proud because nothing can touch them. You know, one of the things that breaks pride quicker than anything is when all that stuff you've been putting your trust in, like Psalm 37 talks about, all that stuff you've been putting your trust in starts slipping away, starts breaking off. You know, your money gets gone and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's go on here. Their eyes stand out with fatness, and they have more than the heart could even wish for. Man, they got a Corvette, a Cadillac, and a Ford truck. A bass boat, and then they got one of them center consoles they can take down to the coast and fish with too. Right? Man, 2 motorcycles. They got it all. They're corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak lawfully. We've had some people in politics that speak like that. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. What else walketh through the earth? Yeah, the devouring lion, man. He's seeketh who he might devour. He goes to and fro through the earth, seeking who he might devour. So their tongue is like the Satan is seeking who he can devour. All right? So they speak lawfully. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people return hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out unto them. And they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? So does he really know what's going on? Behold, these are ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. It don't mean that everybody increases in riches is ungodly, okay? There were some godly people that increased in riches in the Bible. Solomon, David, Job, Abraham. We had a lot of people that increased in riches, so don't equate that with being ungodly. Verily, I have cleaned my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. Have you ever felt like that? Now, like I say now, just think about what he's saying. You sit there and I'm trying to live a good life. I pay my tithes. I give to the poor. I spend my time and my money trying to serve God. And I'm doing it in vain. That's what he's saying. I have washed my hands. I've cleaned my heart. I've lived a good life for no reason. That's what he's saying. Boy, we don't like to admit that, but we think like that. I know we do, because I do. You know, I remember being at Goodyear. I do, man. And right before I left Goodyear, I would go out in the parking lot and I'd get in my little blue Isuzu that the side of it was caved in, and it leaked oil. I didn't have to change the oil in it. All I had to do was just keep putting oil in it because it leaked that much. And it run. It took me to work every day. But man, it was in bad shape. And I'd go out there in that parking lot and I'd look, and they would. I'm not lying to you. There was a whole line of brand new Ford and Chevrolet 4-door trucks all the way down through there. And I'm like, God, I'd love to have one of them. You know, if I just didn't pay my tithes for about 5 years, I could have one of them. Huh? Yeah, right. And you know, a lot of times them boys, we'd be getting off of work on a Friday morning, and they would just be a line of trucks with brand new bass boats behind them out there. Well, I couldn't afford the truck or the bass boat, much less boat. And you'd think, man, if I just didn't pay my tithe, if I didn't give to this, if I didn't do that, I mean, look, I'm being just transparent with you. I mean, I know y'all feel the same way sometimes, you know. But listen to what he says. Listen to what he says now. Verse 14. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. So things is wrong with him, you know. He wakes up with bad knees, and it takes a while to stand up straight. And he goes in there and looks in the mirror, and all his hairs fell down into the sink. You know what I'm saying? And every morning, if I say I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of the children, of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, until I went unto the sanctuary of God. Then understood I their end. Okay, this is where that being cut down like the grass is. Judgment's coming one day. Look what it says now. Surely thou didst set them in a slippery place. They're trusting in the riches. They got everything going. They have more to do. They don't have to go to church. They got the lake. They got the beach. They got the motorcycle to ride. They've got the mountains. Everything's going on. They got more to do than they're in a slippery place because they're trusting in, and they think they're going to live forever. Told you about my friend that just died. Well, reached out to him to try to talk to him. I didn't know what was going to happen to him. He didn't either. He wasn't planning on dying last week. You know what I'm saying? Pointed unto a man wants to die. Okay? We all got a set amount of days. And I believe that, and I'll believe it until God changes my mind. But I believe we got so many days. I think when you punch in the day of your birth, you got so long till that card punches out. And when it's punched out, it's punched out. Okay? I went to the sanctuary of God, and then I understood their end. Surely thou did set them in a slippery place. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into desolation as in a moment? They are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one waketh, so, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So rebellious was I, and ignorant, I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Did you see all that? Did you check out that verse right there? Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel. Okay? That's in your day-to-day living for the rest of your life. And when you punch your card, look what it says. And afterwards, you're going to receive me into glory. But that's not going to be their end. That's why he was grieved. He was grieved for a couple of reasons. First of all, he was grieved because he didn't honor God and trust in what he was doing. And second, he was grieved because these people got to end. You see? They got to end. Look what it says now. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon the earth that I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is my strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. Thou hast destroyed all them that go whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God, that I might declare thy works. Folks, I'm telling you, when you get feeling down in the dumps about the way somebody else is being treated and how you're getting treated, You just got to remember, this world is not my home. I'm just traveling through. If God lets me put my tent up one more day, I'll put it up one more day, and I'll pick it up and I'll walk another day on this earth. And if he don't, I'll leave this old tent here, and I'm going to a city whose builder and maker is God. It has a foundation, and it will never be moved. It will always be holy. That's what we have to look at as Christians, okay? Real quick, I'm going to get this last one here. There's contrast in lifestyles. We talked about that. The reality and inevitability of retribution, that kind of went with what we just said there. I got to give y'all this example because I got it wrote down here. We call it karma. There was a band called The Band who wrote a song called The Wait. So I want to give you these two little refrains in it. I picked up my bag and I went looking for a place to hide when I saw Carmen and the devil walking side by side. I said, "Hey, Carmen, come on and let's go downtown." And she said, "I got to go, but my friend can stick around." So Carmen's going to go on down, but the devil's going to stay there with you. And so that's the way that happens. All right. Wisdom literature grapples with the fact that there's injustices in life. My son tells his kid this all the time: life just ain't fair. And so that's just the way it is, and so you just have to deal with it. So what happens when the person lives according to God's word and suffers for it? And the worse yet, the wicked people prosper. Well, the wisdom literature finds a solution that there will be a retribution in this life or the one to come, but it will be a retribution eventually. All right? So we see that, and we see the godly and the ungodly side by side. And then finally, in number 4, cancels that pertain to everyday conduct. Wisdom texts give basic practical advice such as be prudent in speech, resist anger, be mindful of company you keep, live in harmony, integrity, generosity, trust in the Lord and not yourself, shun evil, and do good. And I think we see that in Psalm 37, the parts of it that we read, and you see it in Psalm 34 where we read that in verses 13 and 14. So that's how you identify these wisdom psalms. I know that they're getting more vague as we go along. I know that and I understand that. They're not patterns that we follow anymore, but now there's stuff you got to look at and you got to think through. Again, you have somebody like Ross and some other people. They write these things and they delineate the things down so far that the average person won't never get there, but this is part of it. I want to continue to teach some of the stuff about the Psalms. I know we have to talk about the Psalms that we don't understand, those precatory Psalms when, they're crying out for God to destroy this one and that one. So we'll talk about that, maybe a couple others between now and the end of the year. All right? Okay. Well, we're 5 after, so y'all owe me 5 minutes overtime this week.